Albert Pike, Audrey Mestre, 112, 42, and the Water Ritual. This post is an addendum to my previous two posts, Naya Rivera /water in Ritual Magic and the 42 Water Code and the Heliacal Rising of Sirius. I addressed the esoteric significance of water. Water is a feminine element and is often invoked in manifestation rituals. Manifestation or creation or birth is a feminine act. An example of water and birthing being utilized in ritual is the Christian ceremony of baptism and the concept of being born again. Gematria reveals the relation between those two concepts. Baptism and rebirth both equal 80 in English ordinal, 109 in reverse ordinal, and 46 in reverse reduction. In the mystery traditions, the metaphorical realm from which the elements of the material world are formed is known as the primordial waters. The magicians behind the crafting of the New World Order exercise these concepts as they attempt to reshape the world. Followers of Zachary Hubbard's work will be familiar with the crucial significance of the number 201 to this project. We see how it applies here. Primordial waters equals 201 in English ordinal. New beginning equals 201 in reverse ordinal. In my previous post, I explained that the number 42 emerges often in water-related events and drownings. Water is a feminine element. 42 is a code number for the feminine. Feminine equals 42 in reverse reduction. The goddess Ma'at of ancient Kemet is known for her 42 laws. Ma'at, A, goddess of truth, justice, wisdom, stars, law, morality, order, harmony, the seasons, and cosmic balance. Ma'at was both the goddess and the personification of truth and justice. Her ostrich feather represents truth. The number 42 emerges in numerous water-related deaths. A fuller list is in my previous post, the 42 Water Code, but an example is here. The death in the swimming pool of two in-laws of New York Yankees legend Mariano Rivera, who wore jersey number 42 and whose name Sandman sums to 42 in Gematria. Sandman equals 42 in reverse reduction. April 2nd. The date April 2nd, written 4-2, emerges often as well. One example is the 1930 death of Ethiopian Empress Zuditu on April 2nd. The official story on her mysterious death is that she contracted typhoid fever and that in an attempt to treat her, she was submerged in icy cold hot water and died as a result. Ethiopian Empress Zuditu. Her death resulted in the emperorship of Haile Selassie, who is highly venerated in Freemasonry. Freemasonry also highly venerates Albert Pike, above, who died on April 2nd, 1891. Death and legacy. Pike died on April 2nd, 1891 in Washington, D.C. at the age of 81 and was buried at Oak Hill Cemetery, despite the fact that he had left instructions for his body to be cremated in 1944. His remains were moved to the House of the Temple, headquarters of the southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite. So it is interesting that Albert Pike, who also died on April 2nd, is attributed with writing a poem titled The Old Canoe. The authorship of The Old Canoe was attributed to Pike. Poetry. As a young man of letters, Pike wrote poetry and he continued to do so for the rest of his life. At 23, he published his first poem, Hymns to the Gods. Later work was printed in literary journals such as Blackwood's Edinburgh magazine and local newspapers. His first collection of poetry, prose, sketches, and poems written in the Western country was published in 1834. He later gathered many of his poems and republished them in Hymns to the Gods and Other Poems, 1872. After his death, these were published again in General Albert Pike's Poems, 1900, and Lyrics and Love Songs, 1916. The authorship of The Old Canoe was attributed to Pike. He was suggested as author because about the time of its publication, when it was going the rounds of the press, probably without any credit, a doggerel called The Old Canoe was composed about Pike by one of his political foes. The subject was a canoe in which he left Columbia, Tennessee, when a young man practicing law in that place, Pike told Senator Edward W. Carmack that he was not the author of The Old Canoe, and could not imagine how he ever got the credit for it. The rightful author was Emily Rebecca Page. The new powers in tennis heartbreaking in the mud for Funny Side Kid and Parker Duel for the NBA title, Sports Illustrated, The Deadly Dive, Love and Obsession, 500 Feet Down, The Dangerous Quest for a World Record. A high-profile drowning death that occurred in 2002 did so in the sport of freediving, one of the most extreme and dangerous sports in the world. Freediving involves submerging to as extreme a depth as possible on one breath of air, with no breathing assistance such as oxygen tank. Deaths are common occurrence in this sport. Freediving, breath hold diving, or skin diving is a form of underwater diving that relies on breath holding until resurfacing rather than the use of breathing apparatus such as scuba gear. Besides the limits of breath hold, immersion in water and exposure to high ambient pressure also have psychological effects that limit the depths and duration possible in freediving. Examples of freediving activities are traditional fishing techniques, competitive and non-competitive freediving, competitive and non-competitive spearfishing, and freediving photography, synchronized swimming, underwater football, underwater rugby, underwater hockey, underwater target shooting, and snorkeling. There are also a range of competitive apnea disciplines in which competitors attempt to attain great depths, times, or distances on a single breath. In 2002, the normally unheralded sport of freediving achieved an unprecedented level of publicity. This was, for the most part, because its best divers, male or female, were two physically attractive females. Tanya Streeter held not only the female world record, but the overall freediving world record, having plunged to 160 meters. Biggest rival was Audrey Mestre. The fact that their physical attractiveness garnered mainstream recognition for the sport is an example of materialism, as in mater, from the Latin word for mother, mater. Females were dominating a water-related sport, water, a female element. As stated in my previous posts, the suffix mar is female/water related from the Latin word for sea, mare. In English, we have the word marine. One of Audrey Mestre's sponsors was a company named Mares. The French word for mother, mère, is the same as the word for sea, mère, only spelled differently. Jeff Blumenfield, a spokesman for Mares, an Italian diving equipment manufacturer that sponsored Mestre, said 13 scuba divers monitored the dive for safety. Usually the divers descends and ascends on a single breath, but when something appeared to go wrong, Mestre was given oxygen on the ascent by one of the divers. Death. In October 2002, Mestre died in an early attempt to break the 160 meters no limits freediving world record that Tanya Streeter had established a few weeks before on August 17, 2002. At that time, this was both men and women's official AIDA record. Tanya Streeter equals 171 in English ordinal. The name of the sport and the name of the world record holder both sum to 171 in gematria. This is seemingly completely unrelated, but the name Albert Pike sums to 171. Albert Pike equals 171 in reverse ordinal. Albert Pike's memorial statue in Washington, D.C. was unceremoniously brought down in 2020 on June 19th, the 171st day of the year. The monument had a width of 17.1 feet. Albert Pike Memorial in 2008. Design and location. The Pike Memorial included the only outdoor sculpture in Washington, D.C., honoring a Confederate general, although he was dressed as a civilian, not a soldier. The memorial is located in Reservation 188 at the southwest corner of 3rd and D Street, NW, in the Judiciary Square neighborhood. It is sited between the U.S. Department of Labor's Francis Perkins Building and Metropolitan Police Department headquarters. The bronze sculpture of Pike measured 11 feet 3.4 meters high and depicted him as a Masonic leader, not a Confederate officer. He was wearing a double-breasted vest and a long coat. His right arm was extended, and with the left hand he held a book, thought to be his work, Morals and Dogma, of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. The sculpture surmounted a granite Beaux Arts base that is 17.2 feet, 5.2 meters tall, and 17.1 feet, 5.2 meters wide. On the front of the memorial north side, a bronze sculpture representing the goddess of masonry rests halfway down the base. With her right hand, she holds the banner of the Scottish Rite on a staff. She is wearing a long Greek robe and facing downward, her ankles crossed and feet angling. Gematria reveals amazing synchronicity between terms related to the event, water-related death, and Audrey Mestre. Water-related death equals 170 in English ordinal and 71 in full reduction. Audrey Mestre equals 170 in reverse ordinal and 71 in reverse reduction. 71 emerges often in events involving women. This is why sacred feminine equals 71 in full reduction. Audrey Mestre succeeded in reaching 171 meters, but when she attempted to inflate the lift bag that would rapidly propel her to the surface, it turned out that someone forgot to fill the air tank that would give it its thrust. On October 4, 2002, with a dive team under her husband's supervision, she made a practice dive off Bahia Beach in the Dominican Republic to record a depth of 166 meters and 545 feet. After more deep dive practices on October 12, she prepared to attempt to dive to 171 meters. On reaching 171 meters, she opened the valve on the air tank to inflate the lift bag, which would raise her rapidly to the surface, but the cylinder had no air in it. A rescue diver arrived and inflated the bag with its air supply, but the bag did not rise fast enough due to insufficient inflation. The riser rope being non-vertical and strong currents, a dive that should have been no more than 3 minutes resulted in her remaining underwater for more than 8.5 minutes. By the time her husband put on scuba gear and dove down to pick up her unconscious body to the surface, it was too late and she was pronounced dead at a hospital on shore. Drowning equals 112 in reverse ordinal. Nile River and Houston equal 112 in English ordinal. The biggest number in drownings and water-related events is 112. That is because drowning sums to 112 in gematria. A longer list of examples is in my previous post. A few are here. Actress Naya Rivera, who recently drowned in a lake, was born on January 12, 1-12. Her name, Naya Rivera, sounds like Nile River, which sums to 112 in gematria. Whitney Houston drowned in the bathtub on the 11th of February, 11-2. Houston sums to 112 in gematria. The date in 2002 that Audrey Mestre died on was October 12th, written 10-12. In numerology, 0 has no value, so 1012 equals 112. This may seem completely unrelated, but Albert Pike Memorial sums to 112. Albert Pike Memorial equals 112 in reverse reduction. Ritual water sacrifice equals 221 in English ordinal. Mestre died off the beach of Bayahibe, Dominican Republic. Bayahibe, Dominican Republic equals 221 in English ordinal and 122 in full reduction. World Freedivers, bringing together freedivers and spear fishermen, featuring Pipin Faras, 42 breath hold world records. The 42 code emerges again. Mestre's husband, a suspicious character to say the least, is said in the above headline to be the holder of 42 freediving records. Wikipedia says 41, however.